When you're taking your vitamin D, you want to make sure that you are maximizing the benefit that you'll get from it. So you have to consider, what time should you take it? How should you take it? What should you combine your vitamin D with when you take it? There's a lot of details there. So in this video, I'm going to share with you science-backed tips as to how you can maximize the absorbability and the benefit that you're getting from your vitamin D that you're taking every day. So let's go ahead and dive in. But before we do, I'm Dr. Zyrowski. Thanks for hanging out with me in another video. This information is sure to not only save you money, but change your health for the better. So when we look at taking vitamin D, the first thing we want to take into consideration is, when should you take it? Well, you want to be taking your vitamin D either morning or midday. I'll tell you why. This is because it can have an impact on your sleep. When you're taking vitamin D earlier in the day, it is going to support your natural circadian rhythm. However, if you're taking vitamin D later on in the day or even at night, you're going to find that it can actually impact your melatonin production, and as a result, especially if you're sensitive to this, find that you are having your sleep impacted and it's causing you to stay up and giving you energy at night, which you don't want. So if you're going to take vitamin D, you certainly want to be taking it in the morning or earlier on in the day. And then, of course, we have to look at, well, what should you take it with? Should you take vitamin D alone on an empty stomach or combine it with food? Well, according to the research, this is interesting. You should actually take your vitamin D with something that is going to help it absorb better, like a fat. And so therefore, if you're consuming that first meal of the day, what you want to do is have some healthy fats in there, like olive oil, avocados, eggs, or even fatty fish. And you're going to want to take your vitamin D with that, because the research shows that you actually get 50% better absorption of your vitamin D when you take it with a fat-containing meal. So therefore, we want to take it earlier on in the day and take your vitamin D with fat. Well, what else do you need to know about your vitamin D? You want to take your vitamin D with K2. This is a very, very important concept. And you want to take your vitamin D with K2 because vitamin D is going to help absorb calcium, but K2 directs that calcium in the bones and away from the arteries. When you're taking your vitamin D, you don't want to build calcium in your liver. You don't want to build calcium in your arteries. You don't want to build calcium in your muscle tissues. You want to build calcium in your bones to keep strong bones. Therefore, a D3 K2 combo, specifically MK7, K2 MK7, is going to support both bone and heart health in a big way. So therefore, make sure that you're taking your D3 with K2. But did you hear what I just said there? You want to be making sure that you're taking vitamin D3, not just plain old vitamin D off the shelf from the grocery store. Vitamin D3, also known as calciferol, is the active form of vitamin D that your body makes from sunlight. More effective and longer lasting than your typical vitamin D that you're going to buy from the store. You want that vitamin D3, the active form. And I know that sometimes it can be confusing as to which vitamin D to take. I'll put a link in the description below to the vitamin D3 K2 that I take personally every single day and that I use in my clinic. It's a good, healthy daily dose of 5,000 IUs that's actually going to make a difference in your body. It's highly absorbable from a good source, and it is good quality. So link in the description below, check that out in order to ease the process of getting good quality vitamin D. Now, the next thing you want to consider when taking vitamin D is what your levels are at. So you want to get your levels tested, okay? The optimal blood level of vitamin D is going to be 100 nanograms per milliliter. Now, this is important because we're told often that, as long as you're just falling in that sufficient area, if you're above 30, somewhere between 30 and 70, that's completely fine. It's not, though. The truth is that you want to be at an optimized level of vitamin D at a sufficient level that is going to actually support your immune system, your bone health, your heart health, your brain health, lower inflammation, and do all the amazing things that vitamin D does. In fact, in a recent video, I talked about how vitamin D at sufficient and optimized levels actually has a huge impact on cellular aging. So if you're interested in that, go back and watch the old video that I did on that, but it's very interesting stuff. So if you want to optimize your vitamin D levels, first test and then try to get your levels up to around 100 nanograms per milliliter. That is the most optimal number that you can function at. Now, in this video, we talked about taking vitamin D in supplement form. And the reason I do that is because I'm a realist. You know, I work with patients every single day. I see how deficient so many of you are in vitamin D. And the only way to solve this issue is typically to take it in supplement form. But remember that there are 3 ways that we can get vitamin D. The first that you hear about a lot is through food. And I will tell you that getting your vitamin D through food is about useless. It's very difficult to do unless you're eating enormous amounts of fatty fish. So we kind of want to take that way that you're going to get vitamin D off the table. The next is to be out in sunlight, and this is fantastic. About 30 to 60 minutes of sun exposure a day would give you adequate amounts of vitamin D. Now, when I say sun exposure, it's important to realize that you have to think of yourself outside in like a bathing suit, right? You're getting sun on your arms, your stomach, your legs. You're outside getting sunlight on the body for 30 to 60 minutes. A lot of people say, well, I go out in the sun for 30 to 60 minutes and only their face is getting sun on it. Not nearly enough skin exposure there in order to get enough sunlight to have adequate amounts of vitamin D in your system. So especially for someone like me living in a very cloud-covered region up in Michigan, we really rely on getting our vitamin D from supplementation, which is next on our list here. And supplementation is going to be the most realistic way to get vitamin D. As I said before, I test people all the time for vitamin D, and so often they are deficient. So therefore, I'm sure that you're struggling with some of the same issues. And the fact is that if you want to transform your health in a positive way naturally, taking proper amounts of vitamin D is one of the simplest ways to do so. So link in the description below to the vitamin D that I like to use. And this way you'll be giving your body what it needs to heal every single day. I'm Dr. Zyrowski. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you loved it, check out this video on vitamin D next.